Hi, listeners and Ink community. I am so glad you are here. Welcome to this week's episode of I Never Knew But My Dog Did podcast. I am Master Life Coach Maureen Scanlon. I am an entrepreneur, an author, a podcast host, obviously, and a speaker. And I live for this get to that I do here doing my podcast. What I live for the most is the guests that find me and that I can find. Most of the time they just build it and they will come and I just find them. And I just love what I get to do. And it's never about money. It's never about recognition. It's about what impact can I make in the world as a human. And it's really cool to see people like my next guest who have completely had to flip their perspective in life of what you really thought was success and what was important to now that pay forward mentality of what you give to others. So I'm going to tell you guys all about my next guest. And my next guest, his name is Dwayne Morton. And he's a former international basketball player. He lived for the high pressure moments, the final seconds of a close game, the roar of the crowd, the feeling of knowing his training led to these moments. But an injury ended his career. He faced a new kind of pressure when he wasn't prepared for. His identity had been built around the sport, and without it, he felt lost. And this is a very common thing with athletes. We've discussed this in previous episodes, so this is fantastic. We're going to revisit. No game plan, no direction, just him searching for what was next. And what he realized was that the same resilience that helped him push through these tough games was a key to pushing through life's hardest moments. And he has a new program that he does, a master class called Show Up to Win. And we're going to hear more about that. So welcome, 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 my new friend Dwayne. How are you?
I'm doing great. First of all, I want to say thank you to the listeners for giving me your time. I believe time is the most important commodity. Of course, with my story, you'll understand why time is such a valuable commodity and why I look at it in such a way. But also, Maureen, I appreciate you for giving me the opportunity to come on your platform and to share my story with your listeners.
Oh, I'm honored that you're here, and I agree with you. Time is the one thing that has no value because it's one thing that you cannot get back, and it's the one thing we want more of, and we can't buy more of it. There's a line in a song, not another minute can one, not another minute can one penny buy, and I cannot remember who it was. Dust in the Wind is the song. And I that sticks with me too, where it's like I like you for 45 years. Something that Dwayne mentioned, listeners, before we started recording was he said he was sitting on the sidelines for a period of time of his life. And it really resonated with me because for my first 45 years, I was in a mentality of, well, this is as good as it gets, or this is the hand I was dealt, or, the next shoe, when's the next shoe going to drop? So I can't wait to hear how you change that perspective, Dwayne. But here at I Never Knew or Inc., what we do is we start with our knee story. And I know you have a really, really, really impactful knee story. So our knee story is, that moment or moments in your life where whew, you couldn't breathe anymore. You were on your knees saying, this doesn't work for me. This life is not turning out the way I want it to be. I got to do something. Something's got to give here because I can't live my next 50 years doing this same thing. So can you share with us your most impactful knee story?
Yeah, so I would probably say was when I was originally diagnosed with the rare blood cancer. I would always hit my head on the pillow every night and was just like, man, I wish I could just be healthy. If I was healthy, I would be able to utilize all these opportunities. And then, also the other part would be when I also hit my knees and I was hitting my head on the pillow when I was involved in the police shooting as a bystander. I was just driving by. I was just and a straight bullet hit the truck. So I feel even that time it was such a need because I wasn't able to sleep. So even though I was content with the diagnosis at that point, in 2022, um, the PTSD and the survivor's guilt that I was dealing with the shooting was like an immediate, like, I can't, I'm not, I hate to use the word can't, so I don't want to use it, but I'm unable to do these type of things. Like, also, when I was originally diagnosed, I was given 5 years, and then the 5 years turned into 15. So it was after the 15. So I already thought that I was dead. So I couldn't understand why these things were happening to me. But then I also couldn't understand I need to be able to utilize these things so I can level up. And so that was the thing. And so when I found out I was misdiagnosed last year, almost a year now, that was where I finally got the confirmation, the reality of like, oh, now all of these things have actually built me up. And so those would be my two need stories. And those are there's different times in that period of 18 years that like there were other needs. There was times that I would needed to go to the grocery store and I would have to call people and say, hey, I know this is super inconvenient, but like, is there any way you could go to a grocery store for me? Is there any way that you could just go through a drive through? I mean, so that was the thing is like throughout these whole 18 years, I have to ask for a lot of things that a lot of people would be too prideful to ask. Unfortunately, it wasn't even a minute. I didn't even have a chance to let pride stop me. Pride wasn't even available to stop me because it was like, okay, if I want to eat, I have to ask. If I don't do these type of things, and so that's really part of the journey that a lot of people don't really understand or truly have the capacity because I've really kind of kept those things to myself. But I understand now that these are the part of the stories that other people want to hear.
Yes, yes, I love that so much. And listeners, if you grasped, jeez, what Dwayne just said, I mean, I adore you, Dwayne, because you just sort of skimmed over and all these things happen. And these are every single one of those are big things. So, starting from an injury that ends a dream that you have to being an innocent bystander in a police shooting or in during a crime, which is what I was reaching out to find guests for. And that's when Dwayne reached out for me. And I wanted to hear so much of that story. We're going to hear more. And then that, as if that's not enough, then you add in a misdiagnosis of believing that you were supposed to be dead after 5 years. All of those things combined, it would be difficult. And I'm a life coach, so I'm all, of course, all about let's figure out why it's happening for you, not to you. But that's a difficult thing when you have this sort of snowball of all these things to stay positive and to say this, there was reasons why I needed to have these things happen. I know it wasn't easy. Can you tell us sort of your journey of your mindset from, oh my gosh, all these things are happening? I remember always thinking in my brain, everything comes in threes. So if there, two things had happened, I was always like Debbie Doomsday, like, oh, there's something else coming. Tell us how you've kind of made that work for you after these 18 years. And why is the 18-year time span important for us to know?
Yeah. So what I would say, you asked me a lot of really great stuff. So hopefully I'll hit on all these points. But so for me, I was extremely fortunate. I was always had a strong mindset. I was also an overachiever in certain things I wasn't because I wasn't concerned with them. When I say that is if you read the book, The Big Leap, it talks about doing things in your genius, things that you're excellent at. You don't really, there's not a need or a want, right? I'm not passionate about it. So I'm not saying that I'm unable to do it. It's that I'm not passionate about it. So I'm not going to put all my energy towards it. So part of my story is I studied sports psychology. So when I injured my knee, I was like, okay, I can still stay around the game because I want to do something around sports. The other aspect of it is so the 18 years, what is significant is I was diagnosed at 29. So I was going through life being, okay, I have time to figure it out. When I was diagnosed, I realized I don't have time to figure it out. So I wasn't able to. So for me, I felt I couldn't give my all. I couldn't really give my attention to certain things. So I don't have a wife. I didn't have. It was like I'm not going to have kids. Like those two type things. I was like, absolutely right now, not going to have that. Not even thinking about it because I knew that it would bring other people to have to carry my burden, and I didn't want that either. But what I also realized is I wanted people the 18 years, the biggest part of the 18 years is like when people ask me for resume, my resume started like past that. There's not I did temp jobs. I did network marketing. I did the things that I had to do because I didn't have an able body. So th- me and you talked before here is like if I would have stayed at the job that I was at, never moved, never get a promotion, I lost the potential earnings of over $1 million. So there's so many things that like we can go into more and more detail,
Yeah.
but my mindset was the thing with network marketing. I didn't have an able body, so my mindset was go find other able bodies to pick up where my weakness is, where I struggle.
Mhm.
I'm very strong in leadership. I have very strong in team building. So I knew that if I could find the right type of people, the people that were teachable and coachable, that I could give it a pretty good run for for the money. Also,
Yeah.
Maureen, I'm also in Jim Rohn's mentor tree. So my mentor was mentored by Jim Rohn and mentored Jim Rohn. So that's the other aspect is like I was very fortunate. So and this was also one of the things for me was I couldn't understand why I was getting all these opportunities. I was building all these great relationships, but I wasn't able to do much with them. That was the other aspect. And so now this 18 years, it's like a wind up toy. I've been just people have been winding me up, winding me up, winding me up, and they just I was being held. And then eventually, when I found out I was misdiagnosed, and when I got through the healing process, then I felt like I was let go, and then I was able to go around. But also, Maureen, one thing I do want to mention, my mentor Melvin Turner Sr., who I found out he passed away earlier this month, and so I just want to tell that's the connection that I have to Jim Rohn, and like Melvin Turner Sr. was one of those type of people that poured and poured into me, gave me phone calls when other people weren't calling me. He was always checking on me. He was always, "Hey, young man, how can I help you? Like, what can we talk about? How can we keep you in a good mindset?" Because me and Melvin both knew that if I created some type of action step every day, that I would just be like, okay, well, I did this. Congratulations. Pat on my back on myself. So therefore, I was able to go through some of these things. Also, one thing that you said was, I don't feel like these things happen to me anymore. I don't want to have that victim mentality. I also don't want to have the where it happened for me either. Like, because I was like that in about October, November, but I had a friend say, it happened through you, Dwayne. And the reason why is you were strong enough to be able to handle it. And now you're able to facilitate it and give that to others. And so you can share the stories so people can understand and learn the lessons.
Ah, I love that so much. I love that so much. And I've never heard that, which is fantastic. I mean, I'm in almost 200 episodes and to hear it happen through you. That is so beautiful. And what I'm getting, I'm going back, I'm writing like crazy here. There's just so much to unpack, which I absolutely love, is something that you said that really hits home, and I know listeners, this is going to be you. Why was I getting meeting all of these people and getting these opportunities that I couldn't do anything with? And I've been in that situation. I've been in that thing where I've had these magnificent ideas, or how many people out there want to start a business and they don't have the finances to start it. And so the frustration of, I have so many good ideas and I can solve a problem for people, but I don't have the means to do it. Or, the collaboration and the support. It is so important, and people don't realize how easy it is. The people in your life pick up the phone and say, "How are you doing? Is there anything you need?" I tell every single person in my life, business or otherwise, especially business, there is no competition. There's only collaboration. And you coming on here, every guest, when we get off, I always go, "Tell me what I can do for you." And everyone thinks this is such a big deal. I'm giving free marketing and I'm exposing you to my, 30,000 listeners, but it's a gift. It's a gift that I want to do more because you're gifting me with that time. So how fantastic that you said I was given these opportunities and meeting these people. And it's that sort of old adage, of patience, which I do not have. I don't know if you do, of just wait, it's going to come. There's going to be, and not that everything happens for a reason. I'm not a fan of that, but we don't know yet. I always like the yet, not yet, not yet. I tell my coaching clients all the time, to add yet to things. I'm going to start a business, next year, but today, not yet. So if you leave that not put that not yet, it adds hope. And hope is what makes humans move forward and do good things and take that mentality, that really drive to do better and to move forward. You said something fantastic, and this is so crucial, and this is what I think listeners are going to need. You said, I was like a wind-up toy. That's a lot of that kind of holding in, that suppressing and oppressing things. Tell us a little more about how it felt with your life was just this pressure cooker. And then we're going to go back to the misdiagnosis, which really being in the medical field past my past corporate life, 27 years, 20, no, 29 years, medical, it's frustrating how it affects people's lives for you especially. But tell us about the wind up toy feeling and how did it prevent you from being able to do more of the things you wanted to do?
Oh, so there wasn't no prevent. There was Dwayne felt like he had the flu,
Mm.
like every day. Like, so as if your listeners can get a better understanding of how I felt, was I felt like I had the flu every day. Like I was drained. So every day I would wake up, instead of having a full tank of gas, it was like a quarter tank of a gas. So I had to do things very, I would have to take the ability to do certain things that most people would think are I have to do tasks, and I would have to space them out between days. So like I was a person who took 4 showers a day. Okay. It went to 1 shower a day. And sometimes if we don't feel good and we're afraid we're going to pass out, like we'll do it the next day. It's okay. And so that's the thing is I want to share this with your listeners and be that honest and transparent. Personal hygiene was like, okay, that was one thing that I was most worried about, but I also knew that like there is another day. My morning routine was movement. Like, and I'm actually going to give that to the listeners, but movement's part of it. But movement isn't just like going to the gym and working out. Movement is just getting out of bed. Like I was happy if I went and I took it as like an achievement if I went and used the bathroom and when I went and got a glass of OJ and I came back and I laid back in bed. That was a win for me that day if I felt like it. And so that's the thing is like I really want to stress that to the listeners is like we do not we take for granted so much. And for me, I'm a huge gratitude person. And there's a story I'll share with you guys is that I met a boy when I played basketball overseas who was 5 years old who had not eaten in 3 days. So for me, that broke my heart, but it gave me the foundation that I use every day to know my nightmares are other people's dreams. And I'll say that again, my nightmares are other people's dreams. So other people have it worse than us. It's just that we do not realize how much abundance and gratitude we live in. And so um, I know the one thing that I would tell people about the wind up part was I was patient, but I also had to be patient. I didn't have the strength and I didn't have the ability to use it. And so that was the thing. It was like, let's just say I had everything covered and they were like, hey, Dwayne, we need you to pull a 20 night or a 20-hour shift. Couldn't have done that. I would have fell asleep. I passed out. Like, I mean, those were the things that I was facing. So it wasn't just having like, oh, I need a money man or I need this. No, it was like Dwayne could only do maybe 2 hours of work that day, not be able to pull a whole 8 hour shift or a 12-hour shift on how most entrepreneurs are. And so I feel like that's one of the big points I wanted to really stress to people is like, be very grateful for what you do have because there's so many people that do not have it.
Yeah, yeah, and
And
I
I,
think
I
health wise, we you take advantage of it until you don't have it, and then you're like, oh man, I didn't realize how great it was. And I'm gonna say this, and this is to, I would bet right now at least 50% of my listeners will understand this. Those diseases that are silent. Those the pain that you live in every day. I am a chronic pain sufferer, shall we say. Whether it's, rheumatoid arthritis or any of the, Yashimoto's disease. Everybody knows anybody who has sort of these silent pain diseases to be able to do something that everybody else can do on a regular basis, get up, get out of bed, like you said. It's amazing how grateful you become when you don't have it. And I'm so happy that you said it. What really upsets me is those misdiagnoses. And this happens often. So the medical field, and I'm not downing those that are in the medical field. I was in it. I was started in nursing. Um, it's a process of elimination. There's no perfection to this thing. It's just sort of you get grouped in with what's normal. And we are not normal. Everybody is unique and different. So being misdiagnosed, how do you think? So I want to put this in a very, very elegant way here, eloquent way. How do you think when we get a diagnosis, it it affects our mindsets? Because I know there's a lot of like superheroes out there that are like, hey, I got diagnosed with cancer and I went out and I ran marathons and I was like, nope, I'm not going to do this. But let's be serious here. Most people, you get this diagnosis, you feel like you did with this flu with no energy and just pain every day. It works a number on your mindset. So do you think if you obviously wouldn't have had a diagnosis, or if you were diagnosed correctly, how different would your life have been?
oh wow. So it would have been dramatically different. So all I have is severe sleep apnea. So like it could have been finished, like I could have been over it in a month.
Wow.
So yeah, so when I found out and I went through the steps and of the getting diagnosed for sleep apnea, um, you know, the second night I was on, I felt so much better. It took probably about a month to get to where I felt like I felt better. Also, the other thing is the day before I got sick, I ran 2 miles and I played basketball for 2.5 hours. The next day, I couldn't get up 3 flights of stairs. So it wasn't just like this drastically creep. No, it was just this like I'm off a cliff. So it's made me prioritize sleep. That's another thing. Like I prioritize sleep. I'm sleeping at least 7 hours at least a night. Um, the the biggest thing that I feel like the listener should take away from the misdiagnosis is I'm not. If I want grace, I have to give grace. Same thing with the shooting, right? So the doctor and the person who shot the gun, like I completely I pray for them. Like I don't believe they maliciously did anything and they had any intent for those things to happen to me. Like they didn't happen. They did not do something that was like, oh, I'm trying to screw over Dwayne. No, it was not like that. If I saw the doctor, I would probably shake his hand and say, hey, I understand. I forgive you because I think it's important. But also, it wasn't until I till I met the seventh doctor. I was seven doctors in until he said, this doesn't make sense. And so for people to really to understand, it wasn't. So I have friends who went through the cancer part, came and were the hero. I didn't have that ability. I had the mindset. I would do anything and everything those first 4 to 5 years if it was to change my diet, to change my eating habits. So the other thing is I also understand that like my body did not betray me. I betrayed my body. It was consistent bad eating habits. It was consistent like not sleeping. It was consistent, hey, I want to go to the gym. I should probably sleep, but I'm not going to do that right now. Like, and so I feel the other part of it, especially as an entrepreneur, when people say, I don't have time for sleep, that's the wrong mentality because sleep is so important. That's the time you have to take care of your body. Because think about it. If you're a billionaire, it doesn't matter if you live 5 years. So I mean, you only live like 6 months. Like, what is all? You can't take the money with you. And so that was the other thing too. And the other thing I wanted to touch on, my mindset was legacy. Was I want to do stuff where my friends and family can say, well, he wasn't here very long, but he created this. He did these type of programs. And so one of the biggest, like most heartbreaking things for me was I would bring things to other people and say, I don't have the ability, I don't have the resources, but these are legacy programs that you can join and you can create an immediate impact. And people were just like, I just want to think about it. And I was like, these programs are so good, right? But that's the thing is my mindset was different. I was looking for things for future for others. Other people were just like, no, I just want to stay in the 8 to the 9 to 5 route. And so that's the thing is you just have to understand that some people's mindset is different. For me, I was looking at it from a legacy point, and other people were just like, I just want security. And so that's when we get into this mindset and limiting beliefs and all kinds of wonderful things that me and you can have like a really long conversation about. But that's the thing is if we don't understand, it's really more about being aware. If you're aware, then that's really probably 90% of the battle. It's really the 10% of getting over the cliff or
Yeah.
getting over that hill, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's interesting. I'm like you, listeners, you're listening to this podcast because you're made for something bigger. You and I are together, Dwayne, because we're made for something bigger. If we wanted status quo, I wouldn't be listening to a podcast that talks about resilience, overcoming, and being these superheroes and having these superpowers as humans. You know what I mean? It's hard though when you're like me and you and our listeners to look at other people who are okay with just mediocre or just status quo. We're all surrounded by them, family members, friends, co-work. There's just people like that. I giggle. It's not funny, but I giggle because you brought these amazing legacy ideas to someone who didn't see the brilliance of it. And that's why it's not their idea. It's your idea. And you were given it to be able to do something with it when the time was right for you to do something with it. And it's so funny when I was, I started the life coaching, and then my best friend at the time, we are no longer associated, but she had said, "Oh my gosh, I showed her these headshots. She said, I see that on a book." I didn't even question it, doubt it, nothing. I go, "Oh, okay. I guess I'm writing a book." Like I didn't even question that I was supposed to do that. I'm a talker, obviously. I'm not a writer, but boy, I became a writer and I didn't doubt that was going to be my legacy. And now I am, 3 books in, two more coming out this year, another children's book. It's like now I'm a writer and it's my dream. My husband and I were outside on our deck. It was the cutest thing. And I said to him, because I'm very I have a lot of gratitude for my husband, and I said, I am so grateful for all of the support and that you never question the ideas that I have. You never say, well, hold on a minute, or, well, I don't know. Never. I can give him the craziest idea, and that man is like, That's amazing. So I'm going to this American Library Association in Philadelphia this summer, and I'm going to present my books, all three of my books. And he's just, I'm so proud of you. That's so amazing and wonderful. And the funny thing is he sat there and he goes, I don't think I have a book in me. And I go, what do you mean? I go, what would you write about? He goes, I don't know. I thought about like a story. He loves Stephen King. He's like, I can't do that. It's just, it's not where my skills are. And he goes, even a nonfiction, he goes, it would be so boring, people would fall asleep. And I said, well, honey, what is your superpower? And he said the coolest thing. He said, my superpower is stability. And I said, you know what? I'll bet you 90% of the people that hear that think boring, think not a risk taker, and to me who lived in these abusive relationships and narcissistic people all around me, whether it was family, friends, or romantic, there was no stability. And I said to him, you are 1,000,000% right. That is your superpower, and you give me that gift every single day. Not everybody can have stability, be a superhero in keeping everything safe and secure and predictable. And I think it's a beautiful thing. So I know I just kind of went off on my soapbox
No, it's
there.
a beautiful. So, but it's a beautiful thing if you take it. You take it from a risk taker can actually be able to take the risk and be able to say, okay, I know this doesn't make sense, but like you love and support me enough that you understand that like if this is a lesson, like we have your stability, you have that foundation, that security to go for things, and then if it's not something that's isn't just a complete 100% hit, you can rebound a ball and be like, okay, and then you can set up your comeback. That's the thing. Is so he doesn't realize how much freedom he's giving you, and his superpower is a tremendous superpower, but it has to be in a combination with someone else,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Same thing with me and you. We're risk takers, but also we need someone else to be a little bit more secure and like say, okay, maybe instead of jumping off the cliff with just this parachute you made today, like maybe go back and do a little R&D, And so that's the thing is sometimes we need to be dialed back a little bit, but also I feel you have to be the people that you have and that are your support group. That's the most important part. But when you have a partner, and this is I'm coming from being just assumption, of course, is but I really long for that is being able to have someone that can balance me out, but also be able to support me and be like, hey, I love you this much. Like you think it's a great idea, I think it's a great idea. Go for it. Yeah,
Yeah.
and so I think it's so important, and I really hope one day that I'm able to have that myself.
Well, you know what? I'm going to send you a copy of My Dog is My Relationship, and it is all about dating and getting out there and dating and what to ask for and how to find these kind of healthy relationships because whew, I did all the work for you of what not to do. So I could write that book on what you should do. And when it's healthy after it's been unhealthy your entire life, it's just this shocker. Like, oh my God. It's like eating vanilla ice cream your whole life and then someone gives you a scoop of chocolate and you're like, whoa, this is really good. I always picture my husband. Picture this. Him and I, our relationship is him holding on to my ankles so I don't fly away into the sky because my head's in the clouds. But it also brings excitement and fun for him. Now, I wanted to touch on something that's so important, and this is something I deal with a lot with my clients, is when you said you lost your identity. That's a big thing. We do place who we are with how successful what we do is, right? What do you think is some good advice or tips for the audience to not put our identities into, say, one basket, our eggs in one basket of our identity basket, how we could say it that way?
Yeah, so for me, my identity was always an athlete for such a long period of time because that's what I wanted to do. When I accomplished my dream and when I went and played basketball overseas, I was like, okay, I accomplished my dream. Now what? So I was searching once that happened. That was one thing I want us to give the listeners a little bit more context. But what it did was it allowed me to be like, what's next, right? Is what's next. And I knew I wanted to stay, excuse me, I knew I wanted to stay near the game, but like, how do I want to stay? The other part, and I really feel this is probably the most important part of this, is I was already speaking in front of 500,000 people, and people are like, Dwayne, you're such a great speaker. I was like, man, I'm not a speaker. And just to let you know, Maureen, when I like right after this whole thing, this ordeal happened, I was actually in a leadership group, and someone actually approached me and said, "Are you a speaker or a coach?" And I was like, "Nah, I'm not." And I was just like, I was being humble, but also was like, so they were asking me questions about what I've done. They're like, dude, you have some talent and you don't realize it. And so then I realized that, oh yeah, guess what? I did speak in front of hundreds and thousands of people before. Like I did do that. And then also like I coach people all the time. So
Right.
like, what's the difference? Like, but I didn't identify with it. Same thing when the doctor gave me my identity as you have this, it
Mhm.
is like it's like a prison sentence. And so I want, and so I identified with it, but I also knew, hey, I forgot what I had accomplished in the past. That's what I was going to say. When I, my mindset, and when I really let go of that little robot that was winded up, it was when I realized what I had already accomplished and what my trajectory could be, right? And so that was the thing. I had this wonderful coach who was like poured into me in November, and her name's Kelly. I don't want to go more in detail of that, but she's just a wonderful person, and she poured into me, and she said, "I see you as this podcaster. I see you as this person with this type of books," and I was like, "No way." She, there was different things. So that's the thing is we identify differently because we also have those self doubts. We have those limiting beliefs, right?
Right.
So I didn't see myself as being like entertaining. I didn't see myself as like having I didn't see myself as these traits that she saw.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until someone said and identified them for me, I was like, oh, now I get it. Like now I see where these steps are. And but instead of just being here, I can actually be up here. My trajectory is higher than what I even realized. And so
I
that's the beautiful thing about having coaches and mentors.
Oh my gosh, you literally just summed up why I do what I do. That's the fun of coaching. I've been called a human amplifier just for that reason. There's so many clients that have come and they're at the bottom and they have themselves in this little box of this is who I am and this is what I can do. And when I pour into them, like you say, have you ever thought of this? Or do you realize how much you've done before that leads up to this? And to see people succeed when they break that ceiling and they break out of that box is so beautiful. And we can all do that if you want it. I love that you said that. I love so much. As you were speaking, I was thinking, when you're meant for more, you can only dull your shine for so long. It eventually goes through the cracks. When you see the clouds and you see the sun rays shining through, that's how I picture when you're meant for bigger things, those rays are going to come out. And just because you didn't call yourself a speaker or you didn't call yourself a coach doesn't mean you weren't one. That's the beauty of it. And then you go out and you pursue the certifications and the psychology courses and the education for backing up the credentialing of what you already know and what you've lived through. I personally think your life experience is far more valuable than any book you can read. It just at this point and I always say this time and space, traditional therapy is great for uncovering, but coaching is for recovering. And that's when we remember who we are, and that's where we can unlearn things. I just the podcast before you that's going to publish before you, I had the most wonderful guest, and her name was Susan Peltekian, and she said something profound. She said, "When you say I am blank, you become everything after I am." So if you say, I am not a speaker, you're not a speaker. But if you say, I am a speaker, you're a speaker. And that really hit home with me because we do that negative self-talk and that self-doubt because somewhere along the line, someone said we couldn't do that thing, or we weren't good enough to do that thing, or we didn't believe we were good enough to do that thing. So, oh my gosh, this is perfect timing to wrap up. I want you to tell us, this is your time to shine, marketing wise. Tell us where to find you, what your program is about, what you're offering to help others and pay it forward, this experience that you learned that you want to help others learn.
Yeah, so Marina, so what I'm giving to the listeners is a PDF guide of just my morning routine. People ask me all the time, how did I get through this? The morning routine I feel is the most important thing you can do because it's how you start out the day. And starting out the day, what is most important about it is you woke up. That's the reason for the most type of gratitude. There were so many people that didn't do that that day. So for me, I feel like that was one of the most important things I could share. And so it's on free.showup, and that's with the number two, win.com. And I'm creating this course because I couldn't find the course. I was looking for it the whole entire time of the 18 years. And so I'm creating this course to show people how to overcome adversity in unlikely and untimely circumstances. And I feel like the other aspect is I wanted to build a community, but I needed a community to keep me consistent. But I also needed the community need me to be consistent. So that was the thing. It was a perfect storm. It was that receive and give, that whole circle. And so that's the reason I created the program. And so you're gonna, I feel like I'm an expert because I've done this twice. I've overcome adversity in unlikely and untimely circumstances twice. But I didn't know there was not a blueprint for how to survive as a bystander from a police shooting or survive a misdiagnosis from a blood cancer when you were told like your life's over. Like there just isn't. And so I decided, hey, I need to create this. And so I'm using basketball to use these things because I feel that the program is more geared for athletes and ex-athletes. So it's for people who had that inner fire that like was burnt out. And so I'm not sure if you're aware or your listeners, but if you take a lighter and you dump it in a glass of water, that lighter won't flick by itself. And so what you have to do is have someone who has a lighter that's already lit. It come up and that button, it can be pushed all day, but it won't turn on. And so then you go and you light the other lighter for people. And so I feel like that's what this program's for. And so it's not going to be for everyone. I'll go ahead and tell you, like, I'm not a minimum person, especially right now. If you just want to do minimum type work, this program's not for you. I'll just go ahead and tell you, I'm not the coach for you. If you want results, you're going to do more because you want more. Mm-hmm. And so I want to be really frank and just completely upfront. Like, if you just want to do minimum, like we don't need to have a working relationship because I'm going to drive you crazy. You're probably going to drive me crazy because I want you to have those results, but also I've accomplished my dream. So therefore I want you to accomplish your dream. And so I feel like that is what I feel like I can do to give back. That's the pay it forward, is to equip people with, you deserve it. You're allowed to have it. Because I feel like we've been told so much and been programmed we can't have it or we don't deserve it.
Right. Agree with you 1,000,000%. And that's the beauty of all the different coaches that are out in the world today is we all have something different and special and it fits with the right clients. And I tell people all the time when they call me for coaching, I say, it's not just a matter of me fitting for you. It's you fitting for me too, because I'm like you. I want you to have results. Don't waste my time and your money if we don't have results. I invest so much emotionally into the success of my clients. They become my friends. I hurt when they hurt. I'm an empath, so of course I'm going to feel what they feel. I want success for them. And your coaching, it's an intensity, and there's a certain client that needs really, really that accountability and intensity. And I love that. So athletes and ex-athletes. So I just appreciate you. Was it free.showuptowin.com?
Yes, that's where you get the PDF, and then they can follow me on Facebook, or I, I'll go ahead and say is like I helped people over a period of time. I've helped them like elevate their social media. I didn't work on mine because, like I said, I didn't feel like I was going to be here for all this. So last year, 2024, was just a healing journey. I really stayed away from social media. I was just trying to, hey, I want to do this, but I want to do it my way, and I find the right type of people
Yeah.
and just concentrate. So that's another thing, Maureen, is like there was days last year where I would spend 8 to 12 hours on just personal development because I knew I was that far behind. And so
Mm,
that's what I tell people is like I knew there was things that I had to fix. And
yeah.
there was things that I had to go get coaches to help me fix. And so that's the thing is um, one of the biggest things that I tell people all the time is I believe in two things. You plan and you get a mentor, or you get a mentor and then you plan. One, if you do those two steps, then and as long as you begin, that's all that matters. Like you're going to be very successful.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you have to want it. I think for me, I always tell my clients the progress is as fast as you want it to be, and you have to want it, and you have to devote. Some people can't do 8 to 12 hours a day of self development. I can't. I'm ADHD. Forget about that. I mean, 8 minutes is a stretch for me, but we're all different in that way, and I love that you knew what was missing, and you really wanted to hone in on that and make up for some lost time, and I love that so much. So I will have all of those links on your in your show notes and on your graphics, so everybody can reach out for that free PDF, which I absolutely love it when people do for free their passion projects, and it just shows the giving. It's not, we don't do it for the income, we do it for the outcome. And that's what being a coach is to me, is I do this for free, and it's my time, and it's invaluable, and I love it. But because all of this is so heavy, I like to end on a lighter note, so we can see the fun side of Dwayne. So interestingly enough, my husband is an engineer, and he's a numbers guy, and we giggle all the time because I do girl math. I'm terrible math. I'm a creative. I am not a logical brain, but he is obviously being an engineer. And do you know what he told me, listeners and Dwayne? He told me that not this, yeah, this coming Sunday, I will be 20,000 days old.
Oh wow.
Who keeps track of that stuff? And it passes and you forget about it. But 20,000 days old, that's a pretty cool accomplishment. And it makes me think, what am I going to do with the next 20,000? Of course, I'm not probably going to be able to live to 110, but, I think that's like a really cool number. So on that note, I want to ask you, in relation to birthdays or milestones, what is the coolest gift either you've given or you have received? And it can be literal or figurative.
Oh, so for me is so I share my birthday with my brother's the day before mine and my grandfather's was the day after. So it's 11th, 12th, and 13th of March. And so for me is we always would have the greatest like 3 day birthday party. So my birthday it was always great. And so when my grandfather passed away, that was really difficult for me and my brother. And so me and my brother always get together on our birthdays and celebrate. We basically just celebrate my grandpa for those 3 days and how much we miss him, but also how much we. So for me, it would be this birthday is going to be my. So last year would have been my first birthday of being finding out I was misdiagnosed. but it was only 4 days in. So I really was just like, I don't understand. Now I understand. So I'm really looking forward to March 12th of this year just to be able and say, oh my gosh, I can't believe we've made it. And now look at how the time has changed and how much in a year time I've progressed. So what am I going to do in 5 years? So I feel like right now I'm looking forward to seeing how just the gift of life, being even more grateful than what I normally am for that time. And so uh, I, I feel just the gratitude out of me just oozes out of me all the time. Like it just does. And so I feel like those type of dates are more important for me. And so that 20,000 day, whenever I'm going to have to look at it, because I'm a math person, so I'm kind of curious myself and figure out when that is and just see what all I've been able to accomplish from that time. So,
Yeah, yeah. Isn't that fun to think about? I did a podcast with someone. She's super amazing. She wrote a book about celebrating our birthdays and to celebrate ourselves every year on our birthday. And we need to do that. And your birthday's coming up. So yeah, you definitely need to make a big celebration. It's almost like a renewed birth for you because you're back to who you really are and you get to be healthy again. You are renewed. That light is brighter than ever before. And it's a start fresh again. And now physically you're fit and now mentally go out there and just take on the world, lasso the moon and do what I know that you can do, Dwayne. And you're just so amazing for being here. You're overcoming your resilience, your stories you're giving to communities, and just being here to share this with the listeners. I just appreciate you so much. So thank you and hang in with me, okay?
okay. Thank you so much, Maureen. And thank you so much for your listeners for giving me your time.
Absolutely. Well, listeners, I hope you enjoyed Dwayne as much as I did. I mean, can you imagine, when one thing happens to us, it's pretty traumatic. It's one thing. And then when we compile it, and I'm not trauma comparing, but I'm saying, wow, you're strong. There's a saying, I was strong when I had to be, or I had no other choice. And I know I'd been there many times, my knee story. You had to be strong. You didn't think about anything but that human survival mentality where you had to push forward. So I think it's fantastic. And everybody that's ever a guest or my listeners, those who have little give much, and the people who have been through the most now paid forward more than those who don't. So I love that so much. So yeah, that'll do it for us, guys. A little housekeeping. Don't forget where to find me. Dating coaching. I think Dwayne is going to sign up for my dating coaching, and we're going to find him a significant and because his soulmate twin flame is out there waiting to match up with him. He needs a match of a giver because he's a giver. So that is my book. My dog is my relationship coach, available on Amazon and Outskirts Press, as well as my website. My dog is more enlightened than I am, is kind of this regathering and focusing on who you are and where to go forward in your life. And then my children's book is teaching mindfulness to our 0 to 6 year olds. And that is my dog Bexley is just like me. And I'm going to give you guys a little sneak peek. I literally wrote another children's book this week. So I don't know if I'm going to publish it in 25, but because I have another nonfiction I'm working on. But yeah, the next children's book is super cute and super fun. So don't forget my doggy boutique, mydoggiseverything.net, where I make healthy treats and I have lots of fun stuff, paw bombs, apparel, all kinds of stuff. And then most of all, let's do dating coaching, relationship coaching, and self-confidence, self-worth coaching. With me personally, I do one-on-one, and I also do couples coaching, and I also do families. So reach out to me, and you can also go to my page for contact, comments, show ideas, if you want to say something to Dwayne, anything. So that's at lifecoachmaureen.com. And I'm pretty good about responding. And please, let's keep it positive. We have all 5 stars on Apple, which I'm extremely proud of, which says this is a positive place and a positive community. So I love you all. Please take care of you, take care of one another. Most of all, take care of my little furry babies. That's including my little feline friends as well. And let's make sure that we adopt and do not shop. There are too many babies out there that need you and need a forever home. So until next week, everyone, I love you mucho. Mwah.